This lesson is about sung, or, well, as I said before, the closest thing we can get to it is to relax, but it's not really to relax. It's like when you're in a totally white environment, flat, and of course you really can't see anything because there's no little bumps in order for the light to reflect off of. There's no shadows or anything, so you get to what's called snow blindness. You just can't, you don't know where you're going because the surrounding area is so perfect. And it's the same with sung. The movement is so perfect that you just can't feel your joints moving. We try, first of all, to get this happening in the hands, because the hands are really the most important part, especially in the beginning with Tai Chi, because the hands manifest what your Chi is actually doing. Not right in the beginning, because you're just learning the movements, of course, and it's very difficult to get that happening, but later on the Chi is said to manifest in the fingers and the hands. And so your hand movements become so perfectly rounded that the joints can't see any protruding bits, in order that you feel the movement happening. For instance, you go like this. Of course, you know that you felt your hand move because there's a sharp bit there. But you go like this. No sharp bits, absolutely perfectly rounded. And the body is the thing that's making the movement happen from side to side, so you can't feel your arms moving at all. In particular, you can't feel your wrists. For instance, if I get to here and go, okay, I felt my wrist moving. Incorrect movement. So really, sung is a way of showing you, telling you when you're doing an incorrect movement. And when you start to get into sung, it will be a revelation to you into what Tai Chi is really all about. You really don't start to notice anything about Tai Chi or to feel any benefits from it until you begin to get into the realm of internal Chi flow, being totally attached to what your external movement is doing. So when you're making movements with your wrists, especially, see, it's on the end now. Anyone can do that and not feel anything moving because the wrists aren't moving. See, they're just coming like this. But now, as soon as you start to make change from a yin hand to a yang hand, for instance, that's a yin hand, by the way, that's a yang hand. As soon as you start to change from a yin hand to a yang hand, you're going to feel the movement happening unless you're moving in harmony with what's happening internally, with your internal Chi flow. So you're doing a move like this. In the beginning it'll take a little bit of concentration to get that happening so perfectly that you don't actually feel the wrists changing from yin to yang. You really have to concentrate on it. And you'll of course, always when you're doing this, when you come into a yin-shaped hand, you breathe in. And as you change slowly into a yang-shaped hand, you breathe out. And that's why it's imperative that when you're doing your Tai Chi or any internal martial art, and you're doing a change from yin to yang, as I said before in previous lessons in this series, you must change from yin to yang, in your hands in particular, over the whole stroke of the movement. So the beginning move in Tai Chi, it's not like this, or it's not like this. I felt my hands move, because they're not moving perfectly in harmony with the circle that the arms are making. The arms make a circle, don't they? See that? And later on you'll learn that this is actually an incorrect movement. So what lots of people have done is, modern masters have said, oh, okay, there must be circles, that every move must be circular. So how can this be circular if I'm stopping and starting, you see? What they don't know is that the weight must change, of course. That's another classic. So if your weight changes when your hands come up, from, for instance, at a very simple level, which is again incorrect because I'm double weighted here, but just to explain it, when you move forward and your hands come up, and then you start to sit back, what do the hands do? They make a circle on the end, don't they? A small circle. But that's actually incorrect. Because although you've got weight change, and now you've got sung in your hands, because it's moving over the whole stroke of the movement perfectly, you've still got double weightedness, and that's incorrect. The only time you should be double weighted in any Tai Chi form is here and here when you finish, beginning and end. All through the middle, you're never double weighted. And it applies to the very first movement you make in your Tai Chi form. So the movement actually goes like this. If you look at the weight changes here, as I bring my hands up, the weight will slowly change to the right leg, and the waist will turn to the right slightly, and then the weight will come forward onto the ball of the right foot, then it will come over to the left foot as your waist turns to the left, then it will go back to the heel on the left foot as your waist turns back to the front. So what your weight has actually done is a circle like this, in keeping with what the Tai Chi classics tell us about Tai Chi. And that's the correct way to even do the very first movement of your Tai Chi. That's why Tai Chi is difficult. Modern masters have said, oh, okay, or some old masters some way back said, oh, it's too difficult for people to learn, so let's just tell them to do this. Incorrectly. Certain moves, of course, must be taught incorrectly in the beginning, but if you start teaching very, very important aspects of your Tai Chi incorrectly, then the student will keep that forevermore, and it's very difficult to get out of that having learnt it at a very basic level. So right from the beginning you must learn about Sung and the weight transference and yin and yang and double weightedness. You must never have double weightedness in your hands either. I do make one compensation when I'm teaching beginners, however. I don't teach them about the yin and yang in the hands first up, because it really does get a little bit too difficult then. And you must remember that we Westerners just don't have the time to learn Tai Chi correctly. It used to take 6 years to learn the old Yang style, Yang Lu Chan's form of Tai Chi Chuan. 6 years. People want to learn it in 6 months, even if that. 6 weeks. People go and do a 2-week course and learn Tai Chi. Oh, it's beyond me, you know. You just can't, you just don't, you might as well throw your money down the drain as to go and do those sort of classes. So that's why it's quite difficult in the beginning, and that's why we have Yang Ching Fu's form, of course, to make the whole thing easier for the learning of the Yang Lu Chan's form. Actually learning 2 forms gets you there quicker than just learning the one Yang Lu Chan's form to begin with. That's why I always advise stark beginners, at least, to start on Yang Ching Fu's form rather, which is all slow movements, no fast explosive movements in there. No really low, well, just a couple of really low movements, no leaps in the air or anything, until they can get on to the old Yang style, that's where Tai Chi got its name, the supreme ultimate boxing, from the old Yang style, not necessarily from the new Yang style, which was really made for older people and sick people so that they could get the great benefits that Tai Chi has to give without the greater amount of athleticism required for the old Yang style. But getting back to Sung, so that's the first thing that you'll learn, is to get your hands moving in complete harmony. Just do it with one hand first. Just maybe bring it up like this. You can actually do the first movement of your Tai Chi form if you like, and try to get both hands working, but I suggest just drop one hand by your side and then just get one hand going over like